Okay. I will present this paper, APNet, a fully convolutional neural network using epipolar geometry for depth from light field images. Light field images, they are a bit different from normal images. Images capture 2D, two-dimensional information about a 3D world, but light field images capture four-dimensional information. Two-dimensional for spatial information and other two-dimensional dimensions for angular information. And because of the angular information, it is possible to calculate depth from the light field images. And this paper, EPI, that is a short form for epipolar geometry, and NET, that is a short form for neural network. So in this paper, they have proposed a fully convolutional neural network to calculate depth from light field images using epipolar geometry. The authors for this paper are Chang-Ha, Shin, Ha, Jian, and Tim. Okay. This is my agenda. The first 2 points I have added myself based on my research on internet on what are light field. Actually, I wanted to learn about what is light field. That's why I took up this paper. So first 2 points I have added from internet, and after that I will be presenting APNet and what are the problems that APNet is solving, then the geometry, network design, and data augmentation. Data augmentation is required because light field images are not, they are scarce in internet. So they have proposed some data augmentation procedure. Okay, first is how light fields are captured. In earlier old days, we used to have cameras where we had to focus manually before taking a picture. Like it used to have different knobs, and this portion could be rotated to adjust focal length. Then came autofocus cameras that we use nowadays. Autofocus, here in autofocus, the user don't have to do much, just point at the direction and click the picture. But the camera has to first identify the focal length for the subject, and then only it can click the picture. There are two types of autofocus cameras. One is active and then passive. For in active autofocus cameras, the camera emits a kind of signal. It might be sound signal or infrared signal, and it measures the time for that signal to get reflected from the subject and come back to the camera. And based on that time, the distance of the subject is measured, and depending on that, focal length is fixed. And in passive autofocus, the optical system of the camera is continuously adjusted, and the contrast between sensor fields are measured. And since when the camera is focusing on the subject, that time the this contrast sharpness of the picture will be maximum. So that's how the camera itself passively identifies the optimum focal length and then captures the photo. So in both these cases, the camera takes some time to determine the optimal focal length. Then only it can take the photo. In light field camera, it's just a like point to your subject and just shoot. Don't worry about focusing. So because of that, this kind of cameras are very fast while taking the picture. So light field cameras can come in various sizes. Like you see in the left side, this is a single light field camera that is like a stack of 8 into 8 array of cameras. And then on right side, this is a little pocket sized light field camera. In this, its size is very small, like 2 centimeter into 2 centimeter, into its length is around 6 centimeter. So what light field cameras can do? I For demonstrating that, I have taken a YouTube video from YouTube, and I have clicked that video to a short to show just the demonstration portion. Okay, so this is using this light field camera. This video picture has been taken. This is 4 into 4 array of cameras. This is the picture, only one shot taken by that camera. This is like some toys kept in the ground. So this picture has been already taken, and we are viewing it using a PC, using a software that comes along with the camera. So using that software, after the picture has been taken, the user can modify the perspective view of that picture. Like, I will play the video, you watch. Like, if you see, if you remember, we yes sir. Yes. Okay, sir, I was also saying that, like in our assignment, we have also created reconstructed 3D model of a subject. But for that, we had to click some 30 to 40 pictures, and then only we could reconstruct it. But using this camera, only once we take a snap, and that's it. We can reconstruct. Okay. Uh, Also, we can modify the focus. I'm just showing here. Yes. So it's like, after taking the picture, we can change the focus to anywhere in the picture, in any focal length. And also depth of view we can modify. And everything can be done after the picture has been taken once. So these are the features. First point we have already shown just now. And then speed. Like, if we want to click a picture of a running animal in a jungle, or we want to do sports photography, then the traditional autofocus cameras cannot track the fast moving subject very clearly, because they need some time to autofocus. But this kind of camera, light field cameras, are perform better in this in this kind of sports photography. Then low light sensitivity. Here also, because there is no concept of focusing, the aperture size can be made larger than conventional cameras. So due to that, it can take a lot of light inside. So there is in low light also, this camera can perform well. 3D images we just saw, like with only one capture, we can reconstruct 3D images. Then I'll discuss a standard standard light field camera model. These models are inspired by compound eyes that are generally found in insect and deep sea water crustaceans. Like they have this small ommatidias, hexagonal ommatidias. Those are like tiny units of optical system in them. Because of this, they have extremely large field of view and low aberration and high temporal resolution, infinite depth of field. This compound eyes can be of two types, like you see in the picture. First type is apposition compound eye. Here, these are the ommatidias, and behind each ommatidia there is a optical receptor, photoreceptor. So each photoreceptor can receive light from a single ommatidia. This is one-to-one mapping. In superposition compound eyes, ommatidias are here and the receptors are behind, but each photoreceptor can receive light from multiple ommatidias. So this kind of superposition compound eyes are very much light sensitive. So that's why they are fit. Fit for deep sea crustaceans, where the light is very dim, and then they, because of this nature, they have a lots of aberration in the eye. Because of that, when we are human are building artificial compound eyes, we actually build it on apposition form. So in an artificial compound eye, ommatidias are replaced by microlens arrays. Microlens arrays are like small lenses are fit in an array, two-dimensional array. So these small lenses are also called lenslets. And these photoreceptors are replaced by CCD CMOS. And this circular plane is a bit hard to build. In some of the cameras, this plane is this thing is circular also, but generally a plane is used in case of this circular thing. This is a ray tracing model. Basically, we'll discuss how we obtain multiple view from a single camera. This is like a handheld device. So this is this ZU that we see, that's the optical bench. In that there are image sensors kept. This is the image sensor plane that can be found in any camera. Then there are array of micro lenses. This is a 2D array, but since I'm showing it from, you can say from top, so it's like showing 1D. The other dimension is perpendicular to the plane we are showing. Then the main lens. This is all. That is the optical setup to obtain light fields. Now, how it works? Say this is a ray. This ray is going through the optical center of the main lens as well as one of the micro lens, and it is falling in the image sensor in the middle portion of this small micro image. Behind every micro lens there is a micro image formed, and this ray that is going through the optical center for both the lens is falling in the middle portion of the micro image. Similarly, there will be many such rays. This kind of rays that pass through the optical center of a lens, that is called the chief ray. So here in this picture I am showing only the chief rays for simplicity. So all these rays are forming one beam, and they are falling in the middle of each of these small micro images behind these micro lenses. Now these images, micro images, they will be consisting of multiple pixels. If we say one ray falls on one pixel for simplicity, then we have to trace the other pixels also from where they are coming. This is another beam, the blue color, another beam of lights that are coming from the same positions from where yellow are coming, but they are falling in another portion of the main lens, and they are getting falling in the, say, bottom portion, bottom pixels of each of these micro images. So like this is like a different view. If you can see this, if this is an object, the yellow rays are forming the middle view and the blue rays are forming a little bit top view, but those are formed in the bottom of the, these images are inverted. Similarly, another beam of rays, these are the green one, those are forming a bottom view, and they are again like in each of the micro image they are forming. So from here you can see each see if this is an image, if this is a 3D object here, my mouse is visible, right? So my mouse is visible. Yeah. Okay. If this is the 3D object, then these different points in the main lens are forming different views, and in each of these images, micro images, we have all the views. Say here, say this is the micro images formed. This is a 2D image we are showing. Here it is only 1D. Um, so say in all these small squares, these are like small micro images here, formed here. So like these blue rays that are coming from this same point here, it is going here also, and then from here it is going here, here it is going, all those blues are here. So if we want to obtain the same view for this whole image, we will only take an image like this that is having all the blue pixels from each of these micro images. Like if we want to have the uh, center view of the object here, we will have to track all the middle pixels that are formed here, these yellow pixels. Those are, say, this middle one, yellow one, and we get this image that is the center view, and this is the, say, top view, and this is the bottom view. And in this picture we are showing only the chief ray because that's how it is easier to track. Otherwise all those other rays are also coming, but whatever rays are coming in this micro lens after getting refracted, they will be forming a, because these lenses are very small, they will be forming a small, very small square, and that is again here in the object also, like a very small square is same as 1 pixel in the image. Sir, is it clear? Okay, so shall I proceed or any other question? Okay, okay. So that was how we get a multi-view, multiple views. And then I'll show how it is refocusing into different focal planes. Say this is the picture that we want to refocus. This is the object plane where we want to focus, and that is the background. If we trace the rays, if we take only one point in that object plane and we trace all different rays for different viewpoints, they are all merging here in this case, merging in the optical center of the small micro lens, and they are falling into the image, they're forming the image. So if we want to bring that display this point in focus, we want to integrate all the rays that are coming and forming a focused image here in the optical center. So how do we get that? We can actually add all these pixel values and we get this value, because like it's just a sum of all those that are falling here, and then we get the top portion of the image. Similarly, we have to track all these uh, rays that are coming from the next portion. In the next micro image, we just add all of them. So this way, we keep on adding and we get the whole picture in focus. But only this plane is in focus. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Not average, sir. Addition. Addition. Hmm. Yes, different photosensors in the same image. Basically, pixel values. Yes, yes, yes. No, sir. In this case, they are taking the like same micro image, all the pixels of the same micro image. Yes, sir. Because like when we are focusing for all the from all point of views. We are just focusing on the distance. Focused image. Yes. Yes, actual pixel value that was supposed to fall on the point where they are focusing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. Now, if we want to focus the foreground, say, but the focal this image object plane is in a different distance, then how it will be? Yeah. In this case, say we are tracking this point. These are actually supposed to focus in a point that is far behind the image sensor. Now it will calculate but this rays that are actually going to merge there, they are actually passing through different micro images, and they are the different point of views. Like for the S0 image, for the bottommost image, zero image, there it the topmost pixel is the corresponding pixel, and then from S1 the image is hmm, yes, image plane is also moving. Yeah. So because of that, it's this time it will integrate, but it will not integrate all the pixels from the same image. It will integrate the topmost pixel from the first image, and middle pixel from the second image, and the bottom pixel from the third image. So yeah, so that way, if we keep on moving like for different distances, the software will calculate which pixels has to be added, and depending on calculation, it will put focus. So that's how refocusing is done. Now, how to efficiently do all these calculations? That is a research topic in today's world. And this paper EpiNet, this is one of them. This is showing one efficient process on how fast this calculation has to be done. So in this case, though the capture is very fast, but this calculation takes a lot of time. Like after the capturing, yes, yes. So that's how EpiNet is coming. These are the problem statements. First problem, this problem statements EpiNet is solving. First problem is that handheld cameras, because of their small structures, baseline is very small, very narrow baseline. So that's why um, depth estimation is noisy. So EpiNet will be is solve it's claiming that it has solved this problem using a convolutional neural network. And second problem is like applying deep learning for light field depth estimation. For deep learning, we need a lot of data to train the neural networks. But in case of light field images, we don't have many data. There might be some data available freely over internet, but then we for training the neural network, we also need the ground truth of depth estimation. That ground truth is scarce. So this problem EpiNet has solved using data augmentation. They have proposed some method. Okay, so as I was saying, in a micro in light field cameras, we have so many images. Like in the picture, I have shown only six lenslets, but in real life, there will be thousands of micro lenses in an array. So, to calculate 3D view from all of them, all of those images, it's very time taking. So, first thing that EpiNet has done uh, is they have figured out how to reduce this number of inputs for calculating the multi-view, the perspective viewpoint. For that, they have used epipolar geometry. This 4-dimensional light field images is represented as L of xy uv, where xy is the spatial resolution and uv is the angular resolution. I forgot to tell you here. Uh, Actually, in this image, xy is the like depending on how many points these arrays are getting reflected and falling, that is identifying the spatial resolution, sorry, the view, number of views. And then depending on how many pixels are there, depending on how many pixels are there, those correspond to different views. So this is the angular resolution of the picture, and how many micro lenses are there, that defines how many the spatial resolution of the picture, like xy of the final image. So this number of microlenses are defining spatial resolution and number of pixels in the image sensor for a single micro image. Those are defining the angular resolution. So in case this size is fixed, then there is always a trade-off between spatial resolution and angular resolution of the picture. So that's what they are saying here. L, X, Y, U, V. X, Y corresponds to the spatial resolution and U, V the angular resolution. So if we say L, X, Y, 0, 0 is the center viewpoint of a picture. And then UVth viewpoint of that picture, like if this is the center viewpoint, we are seeing it from UVth viewpoint, the intensity of the light is same because we are looking at the same object, and it will be identified as x plus disparity of that point in u direction, y plus disparity of that point in v direction from UVth location, u and v. And now if we say this angle is theta, like if we this is the center viewpoint and we are looking at it from UVth viewpoint, then this angle, if that is theta, then tan theta is equal to v by u. If we say this direction is u and that direction is v. No sir, disparity is dxy. Disparity of sir, actually XY is a single location, like in a two dimensional. Yes, 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 yes. So XY disparity is between XY to like center view, like when UV is 0, 0 to UV is some other values, UV. This is the disparity. So tan theta is V by U, and we already know like all these U and V, these are like integer quantity. So that means if V is also integer, U is also integer, and V equal to U tan theta, then tan theta also has to be integer. So based on that logic, they have decided the views will be measure means they won't measure the views and on any angle. It will only be such that tan theta is integer, and those are like 0, 45, 90 and 135 degree. It's like 0 this view, 45 is that way, and 90 degree and 135 degree. Like these are the four angular directions. So this is the network design of EpiNet. Because data is very huge, first they are separating out the angular direction data and processing the different angular directions in different four different streams. So this this all these streams correspond, they are consisting of three blocks, and all the blocks are having this conv ReLU, conv BN ReLU structure. And for example, this first stream will identify how to measure per pixel disparity in the horizontal direction. Second one will be measuring the same thing for 45-degree direction, similar way. And also these blocks are convoluted using a very small filter, 2 into 2 by 2 filter. That's because the disparity, the baseline of handheld cameras are very small. So that's why, since we are using 2 into 2 filter, only like as the any disparity as small as plus minus 4 pixel can be measured here. Otherwise, they will get uh, like diffused. I mean, they will be lost because it will make it low frequency. And then all these four views are concatenated. At this point of time, the data size is becoming very huge because they are having all this merge of all this data. And then 8 blocks are there. There also these blocks will learn the relationships They will learn how to find the relationship between the features passed through all these four streams. So these blocks are also similar, conv relu, conv and relu. Only the last block is having this conv relu conv only. And this is the one that infers the depth value of the final image. So this is batch normalization. Okay, so this is the last final depth map that is produced. And then data augmentation. As I was saying, data is scarce, especially the ground truth is very scarce for this kind light field images. So these are the strategies proposed. First is shift center view point. The data EpiNet the authors tested with had 9 into 9 9 into 9 images. Like these are all small micro images. So, but what they did, they tested with 7 into 7, like, and then they kept on shifting the center view 3 into 3. So that way they could use 9 times more data from what was available. Second is rotation. This actually rotation, scaling, flipping, color scaling, all these are very common techniques used for data augmentation for neural network. But in this case, it is a bit different because we have to match that with the ground truth also. For example, rotation, say in the original data, these are the like these these data, it is horizontal shift. As you can see, uh, it is like shifting right and taking the picture like that, and these are fed to the horizontal view channel. Then we rotate all this data to 90-degree. Since we have rotated it, it is no more horizontal shift, it has become a vertical shift. So that stream has to be passed to vertical view, that vertical stream. So that kind of rearranging of connection was required. Scaling also, we could scaling has been done, and at the same time that depth values also had to be scaled accordingly. Flipping, for flipping a disparity, sign of that depth value has to be reversed. Then color scaling and randomly converting color to grayscale. That's how data augmentation has been done. This is some of the results. This is the original picture reference view, and this is the depth map obtained from there. Here, okay, sir. Yes, yes. Here also. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, because this one is behind this. Yes. Okay, 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 sir. Okay, sir. So these are the results. And there are some failure cases also when, say, this is a kitchen view and this is some kind of micro oven or something. And here, like, whenever reflectance is very high for specular objects, uh, this depth map was not done correctly. So these are the failure cases. Only for diffuse cases it works fine. That's it, sir. And these are the references I referred. That's it, sir. Question. Any question? Okay, thank you, sir.